to supervise the civilian people in that territory that you've captured, to work alongside the police, the railway, the town hall and all that, and to take over control as a government. He allocated some military government unit to go there and take charge of the affairs of the camp. And as to me, he said, well, I must say by this time, of course, the Luftwaffe had disappeared. They'd been shot out of the sky or run out of petrol anyway. So I was a bit redundant, I must say, because there wasn't any aircraft to shoot at. So he said to me, well, you better go back to the camp tomorrow morning, attach yourself to the military government unit that's there, and you better do the best you can there. So that's what happened, and yet the next day I went back to the camp and reported to the military government commander there, who was there by that time, he said that he'd like me to take charge of the water supply, the water that would be arriving for the army units, and to try and get the camp system going again, and to try and sort of organize the obvious panic of the people who hadn't had water and control matters, to try and get it reasonably civilized, which is what I had to do at the camp. We did have, of course, dozens of regiments have a water truck arrive and establish points where people could fill cans and whatnot, and then trucks had to go away, refill and come back. And eventually one unit produced an electric generator, and we got the camp water system going again. And what had been broken, we had some people find straws in the camp, got it repaired. So we eventually, after a couple of 3 days, got the water system going. So that kind of resolved that problem. With the food, of course, food started to arrive, but what arrived, of course, was army rations, which consist of bully beef and cheese and things like that. And quite soon the part of the military that was detailed to do that got the cookhouses going, and started brewing up enormous masses of sort of army stew. And the whole problem was how to distribute it, because the people who were fit took it, and there was nobody to give it to the people in the huts who were too ill to move. So we had a big problem how to handle that. But so that was what they were doing, and that was the first kind of move to help the poor people that were there. After that, I was given the job because they had found out, or somebody had found out, that up the road, 3 or 4 kilometers up the road, there was, or supposed to be, a very large German army barracks. I was told to take a jeep and a couple of men and find this place and see what was going on there, and how it could be used or not, or what it was, which is what I did. And indeed, there was a very large, perfect, beautiful army barracks, which had been the tank training school for the German army. It consisted of block after block of 2-story blocks, of sort of dormitory blocks, big offices, mess, a large hospital, food, dining areas, parade grounds, facilities of all kinds. A really wonderful place. All the German army had gone. There wasn't any German soldiers there at all, but on investigation I found quite a lot of the civilians who ran it, did the sort of administration of it, had stayed there, and there was a very large food store with hundreds of tons of potatoes and vegetables, dried milk, tinned meat, and as you would expect in a very large barracks. I don't know how many soldiers the barracks was built for, but it certainly would be more than 20,000. It was a very large place. And they had all these food stores there. So that was good. And I told the people, you know, it's now British Army property and they stay put and they'll be hearing more, but we're taking over. I also found that in that barracks they had a very large bakery, which was capable of baking 60,000 loaves of bread a day, and a very big store of flour to do it with. All this, I'm telling you, was 3 kilometres away from Belsen camp where people were starving. So that was requisitioned. I also found in the nearby village a dairy centre where milk and dairy products were sort of processed and organised. And so I told them, you know, that's requisitioned too. And from that, of course, the idea is that the British Army would really take over this barracks and use it in the dealing with the problem of Belsen. The immediate plan was, having got the food and water more or less going, was to evacuate the camp, the people who hadn't died, and to use the barracks as the place to evacuate them to. I think it was very fortunate there was such a place anywhere near, because I don't quite know what we would have done if there wasn't. But anyway, it was there, and the idea was that the hospital in the camp would be taken over by medical units, which are starting to arrive. There was ambulance units, there was a complete field hospital arrived, that's with surgeons and nurses and the whole works, all spared from, you know, remember that there's a war going on, and all these, an army is always short of these sort of things when a war's going on. So it isn't a question of their surplus. They were spared with great trepidation, really, because there was a war still. Anyway, a field hospital was found, a casualty clearing unit was found, quite a few ambulances arrived, and the idea was that that a part of the big barracks was set aside as the hospital to deal with the Belsen problem on a medical side, with a brigadier, the chief medical officer of the army, took charge. A very wonderful man. He was. The hospital today is named after him, actually, in that place. That was for hospital people who were too ill to walk. The other idea was those who weren't too ill to walk, and that was the only definition. If you could walk, I mean, then to be transported to the rest of the camp up there, the barracks, to be a vast transit camp. The theory being that people would be taken there, and after a day or two, when they could be rehabilitated a little bit, and then would make their way home wherever they came from. That was the idea of it. And I was given the job of supervising the evacuation from Belsen camp of the non